Good evening, ladies and gents. As you can see, I got my background working again. Barely, but that again is because I really got tired of looking at a black screen. This is from our advice from Rhaenyra. Okay. So he writes that he is lost in career and life. I'm currently a behavioral therapist, and though I love my job, it doesn't pay. It's been over 10 years since I've graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. I haven't had a plan for the future, and I don't have one now. I was in a bad place back then, and I had no support, and thus did not do many things that would have been beneficial for me. It was hard to get up every day, and when I asked for help, I got blamed in the worst ways possible. I was stuck in retail until I became a behavioral therapist. I don't want to be in a leadership position, so my only choice is to pivot careers. And I feel so lost in how. I am applying to be a research assistant, but it's hard without any experience, and I don't know if I'm doing anything right or if there's any point in trying. I don't have anyone to talk to for direction. I feel overwhelmed and just want to sleep all the time. But things will get worse if I don't change. What should be my next step? I don't want to go back to school. It's too expensive, and I want to be sure of what I want to do. There is zero chance of me being accepted as a research assistant in my mid 30s. Or is there a 0% chance of being accepted in your 30s? Has anyone been in a similar position but was able to get out and get a better career? How much additional schooling and how did you do it? Okay. So one, it is pretty much a nowadays an age. It's a pretty well known fact that anyone in the psychology field or social working field, therapists, that kind of thing, unless you're a psychiatrist, like a doctor, it's crap. It's crap pay. Counseling, social working, you don't make anything like it. It's a good job. It's a job that you need to do if that is 100% what you want to do. That is what you want. You want to help people in that way. That's really the only reward you're going to get because you barely make above minimum wage, honestly. And especially if you say you don't want to be in any kind of leadership management position, you're not. I mean, I hate to say it, but you're going to hit a wall, and it looks like you have. Um so yeah, it sounds like you went to college. Good for you. But that you just kind of you had no support, so you kind of just went with what was there, like went with whatever possibility or availability was there. Um, so that's kind of understandable, especially now you're in your mid 30s, so am I. So you're a millennial too. So that means I graduated in '09. So let's, for argument's sake, say that you graduated somewhere between '07 and 11. So that was the day and age back then when we were told you need to go to college. It was harped, it was thrown at us. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. And everyone did. And I mean, why? The people I know now, my friends, I have a few from my graduating class. Granted, I graduated from a very small town, like a village. Um, so I can understand the need to go to college. We all did. Um, but like I said, the people I know now, they don't either don't have a degree or they don't use it. I like my brother is a civil engineer, but I have two other brothers that don't have a degree, and they do pretty dang well for themselves. Not saying that my brother doesn't with his degree, but I mean that is kind of a different path than you took, which is fine. Everyone, I could never do it. Yes, it sounds like pivoting career. I mean, you're just going to be unhappy and you're just going to get worse and worse and worse just because, like I said, you're not. Unfortunately, there is kind of a ceiling there when it comes to any kind of therapy that it doesn't involve a doctorate, which would be a psychiatrist. Um, and like you said, it is a lot of time and it's a lot of schooling, and it is expensive to move. So the reason why I chose the stories because I was in a similar situation. So I went to college after high school. I was in the criminal justice law enforcement program at my college. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted That's what I wanted to do. But I wanted to get my degree first because, make it up to detective. Then I found out that our local, not local, but the area's police academy, the wait to get in was like 18 months. And I was almost done. I was like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sit around and wait after I graduate for 18 months to get into this academy and then do it. So kind of rash, but then I did. I went and I enlisted because I was like, all right, what is the closest thing I can do to police work? I can be a police work in the army, or I could be a police work. I could do police work in the army. Um, Army recruiters weren't there. Navy recruiter wasn't there. I came to find out that he's never there. Air Force recruiter wasn't there. So the Marine Corps got me, and I enlisted, and they picked my job for me. Only because I qualified for everything. So when you do your ASVAB, you get a score, and they say, hey, these are the jobs you qualified for. I qualified for everything until my recruiter was like, oh, wait, hold on. He pushed one button and half of it blacked out. He had to change my gender. So I couldn't, I could still be an MP, but the problem is, as far as the military goes, Marine Corps, I know for sure, and I would assume the other military branches too, um, they have basically a quota. They're like, hey, we only have so many jobs in this what we call an MOS. It's a 4-digit, 4-number code. We only have so many positions available for your area for that MOS code. So MP was full, infantry was full, but that didn't matter to me because I couldn't be an infantryman. I ended up in aviation. I ended up a 6337, which is an avionics electrician's mate, because Department of the Navy. So that's what I ended up being, and I didn't ever think that was a thing. Granted, I come from my other side of my family is a bunch of electrical engineers, but it never crossed my mind. It was like, I don't care. That's not what I want to do. I want to be an MP. Well, MP was full. Fine, give me what you got. So he gave me avionics, avionics tech, and I ended up working at the old Top Gun hangar, the 101, for years as a lovingly called wire chaser. When I got out, I was a stay at home mom because my ex husband, my husband at the time, was still in. So I was staying at home, taking care of the kids. And then when we moved, I did a couple other things because I found out I was pregnant. So I couldn't go back to my work on planes. In the Marine Corps, I worked on F-18 fighter jets. Civilian world, I would have worked on like 777s and all that stuff. Regardless, I was pregnant, couldn't do it. So I had to find other careers. Thing was, is I didn't have time. I didn't have the money, just like you. So F it. I had to stay as a stay at home mom. After my divorce, I got back into the field. I went with what I had, my knowledge, my experience as a avionics tech, and I got a job at an aerospace company as an avionics tech. Um, it's not something I thought of in the moment. I didn't think that was even a thing. You think aerospace, you think these engineers, you think NASA. Um, that is not what I didn't work for NASA. I want to actually. That's my dream goal right now is to get to NASA. But at the time, that's not something I thought of, and I didn't even think of the aviation field at all. Got into it. Didn't think of aerospace engineering at all. Got into that. Um, Again, I was working one day, and one of our inspectors came in, and he asked if I had my A&P license because he thought I did. A, real quick, avionics technician, electronics on airplanes and stuff is one of the few positions you don't need to have a specialty certification license, anything for. That, on my opinion, you probably should, but you don't have to have one. However, it is um, a very niche area. And so he asked me, which is usually only taught in A&P school. He asked me if I had an A&P license, and no, I don't. Uh, he's like, "Oh, you're not over at MIAT?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Oh, well." It took him a second. He goes, "Oh, you're military." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, so that's where you learned it." He's like, you should look into getting your license. And I was like, why? He goes, well, you could work up to inspector. You could, the glass ceiling kind of breaks. It's like, well, all right. So I looked into it, and it turns out that could get me places. So I enrolled, and it was amazing. And actually I did it. That's how I found out about it. But I'm just saying, you didn't have no one there. Not everyone there had prior experience on airplanes. They'd never touched an airplane, never even been on an airplane. So that kind of thing. So I'm going to tell you this. I did the same thing. I didn't know what to do with my life. I kind of went back into the same industry, but at the same time, it was totally different. So my avionics experience, I was only working on like the equipment that comes off the airplanes, like the boxes. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it pretty simple. The equipment and the gearbox and stuff, I would test those and fix them, and then send them back so they can be put back on the aircraft. Now my job, I'm actually working back on F-16s now, at the local air station. But as an A&P, theoretically, I could take apart a plane and put it back together now. So that schooling, I only went, it was only, the program itself was only 20 months long. I was in an accelerated program because of my prior experience. I didn't have to take certain classes, like the electronics classes, I didn't have to take. Instruments, that kind of thing. I didn't have to take those. I needed power planes, which is the engines, and a little bit of airframes, minus the electricity and instruments. But I mean, that was it. It took me a little over a year. I ended up having to have hand surgery in the middle of my schooling, so it took a few weeks longer than normally would. But I'm gonna tell you, don't go back to don't go back to school as far as college goes. Go to training, and by training I mean trade schools. It is not long. It is not actually that expensive. My trade school was covered by the GI Bill. So we had aviation, which is what I was in, the aviation program. We have wind, the wind turbines, like the big windmills that you see out there. They have those. Welding, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. Now, here's the thing, you don't have to go to an actual trade school to get your license or degrees. The reason I suggest trade schools, journeyman's, whatever, is because you can make money as you're in school. Like, you have your classes or whatever, but also you're out in the field training. That's your job. Like, you go to your job 8 a.m. every morning, you go with your mentor, and you train on the job, and you are paid while you do this. Like, it's not like an internship. You go and you're paid for doing what you're doing, and then you go do night classes, and you do whatever you need to do as far as that goes. Because it is a trade position. It is not an electrical engineering position. Like, my uncles went to school for electrical engineering. As an electrician, you don't need to do that. Um, so I will. Sorry, I'm getting a new camera. It is on the way, but the focusing distracts me. Um, anyway, so I 100% suggest, if you don't want to do long schooling, if you need something relatively on the cheaper side, even with if I ended up paying for my full schooling, it would, I don't want to say only because it is a lot of money, $52,000 and some change. But FAFSA pretty much paid for all of it for all my other friends and stuff that were in there. Their FAFSA paid for it. If not all of it, most of it. Again, I was lucky enough that my GI Bill covered everything. Because actually, I forgot to say this, after I got out and I was a stay at home mom, I went to school I got my bachelor's in medical science, because I wanted to revamp the VA and do some work there, and eventually be an OBGYN. Clearly, that didn't work out because, like you, it was a lot of money, a lot of time I didn't have. So, anyway, I went back into my field, which is aviation. I don't know if that's something you would be interested in, if that's a thing. If you feel like you can do HVAC, and the thing is, they say, especially with HVAC and welding, HVAC, you can start your own company. And with welding, you can name your price. And wind turbines, you can also name your price. That is a little bit, that takes a brave person. That is scary. Like we have scaffoldings at the school, mock-ups of these things, and they're just tall. They go all the way to the top of the hangar. I'm like, and it's like a 90 degree. I'm like, I can't. That's scary to me. I'll work on top of an airplane, but I won't do that. So that takes a special kind of person. Linemen, plumbers, electricians. Again, trade schools. I will 100% always push trade schools versus college because I've done both, and military. I've done all three. Um, so again, if you're not looking to spend a lot of money, if you're not looking to spend a lot of time on a new education, I do suggest doing something like that. Look into something like that. Um, like I said, it doesn't have to be A&P. If you're not interested in airplanes, whatever. Go to a different trade. Like I said, plumbing. Again, you can start your own business. Master electrician. You can name your price. HVAC. Start your own business. Um, Welding. Name your price. Like, trade schools is where the money is at because we don't need any more white collar professionals that have a degree in underwater basket weaving. We need plumbers. We need electricians. We need welders. We need HVAC techs. We need all these people. So I will 100% always vote for trades. And actually, my mom right now told me that she's having issues with her washer and dryer. There is one washer and dryer guy in our county. So we have one guy between a couple different cities that goes and does these things, appliance repairman. And it's not as prestigious as, oh, I'm a behavioral health therapist, but you will make so much more money and you will be laughing all the way to the bank. And there is nothing to be ashamed about being an electrician, about being a plumber, about being HVAC tech. There's nothing wrong with being blue collar. I love and adore blue collar because it's it, it's something everyone's going to always need. Always, 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 always. I can't really think of one blue collar job that is not necessary. Um, because it's always going to be there. I can think of a dozen white collar jobs or desk jobs or that kind of job that is not necessary, that can be taken with AI, that could just go away. I'm not saying that yours won't or will, but you got to look at it like that too, long term. So again, I know I've said this about 14 times by now. Um, it just, how much do you want it? How bad do you want to move on from this job, this kind of career? Because it doesn't even sound like you like it. It doesn't even sound like you'd be happy. And I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't like working with my hands or this, and this. But man, I tell you, there is something awe-inspiring. There's something magical about being the person that you can just go up and touch these aircraft and touch these planes, and you get to play with them. You get to take them apart. You get to see how they work. Um, there's something at the school called the Spirit Lab. By Spirit, I mean Spirit Airlines because they funded it. You go in and it's a simulation because our hangar is only so big. And we do have plenty of airplanes in the hangar to work on, to play with, to learn. But this lets you go really in depth and you turn it on and it's this huge simulation of an airplane about putting the power on, taking it off, turning the engines on, turning them off, taking them out, and going inside the inner workings. So, oh, and we also have a robotics department there. But that is I could never do that. That's rough. There's, I guess, 3 different languages you got to learn. It's a thing, but it's a very cool traits, traits. If that is something, because again, it's not something I thought I would ever want to be in. It's not something I even thought of. Like, I'd never been on a plane before I went to boot camp. We drive everywhere. Like, we drove to Canada. Like, but if that is something you would be willing to at least try, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from Googling. I don't know where you're from, but there's nothing stopping you from Googling trade school or something like that, or uh, HVAC, A&P, robotics, wind, energy, clean energy. That's another one. at our school, and it'll bring up a list of schools and schedule an appointment, schedule a walkthrough. There, my last week, my last block, what we call blocks, which is about a month long, there, I saw more people walking through, taking a tour of the place than I had seen in my year and a half there at all. Like there were, it was like 4 times. Like I was there 6.5 hours because I took night classes, 6.5 hours every night. I saw at least 3 or 4 groups of people walking through. So it is, these jobs are always going to be there if that's what you're worried about, and they pay really well if you want to learn, if you're willing to learn. And if it's something you're interested in, like I said, I didn't think I would be either, but the Marine Corps told me I had to, so I did. And I'm glad they did because that also opened other opportunities for me as far as volunteer work. I volunteer now at our local air museum, and I work on B 25 bombers. I work on C 47s. I work on Vietnam era Huey helicopters, and I get to play with them. I get to touch them. I get to fix them. I get to ride in them. So it opened so much. It opened a huge opportunity for me. And for a industry that deals with very, 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 very large machines, it is very, very, very small. So when I volunteer there, I also do fundraisers, I do events, I do festivals, and I do a bunch of stuff. So I started off doing security for them because I'm like, hey, I used to work on airplanes and I was in the military, so let me do this. And then they're like, hey, do you know how to fix airplanes? I was like, yeah. Like, cool. We need help on the crew. Do you want to come help? So it's very, and now I love those people. They're great people, and it gives you so many opportunities, you know? So don't let, you know, again, the financial thing, I totally get. But don't let the time kind of hold you back, you know? Because again, I had to start over. I got a divorce only a few years ago. I had to start over in my 30s too. I had to I had to get a job. Luckily, I was able to get a job in in my industry. Um and realized I wanted more. So I went back to school, training because it wasn't, like I said, it was a trade school. It wasn't like a college or university or anything. So I 100% understand of being scared and starting over, basically starting over. Let's just say it, start over. Um, it's not impossible, and without experience, it does limit things as far as other places. But if you are doing these kind of trades, your limited experience doesn't matter. Your zero experience on airplanes, on HVAC, on welding, um, all of that, none of that matters. None of it. Because they will teach you, they will give you that experience. That is the beauty of trade schools. So I'm going to end it here. Don't, I would not look for an intern position because chances are they are not paid or they are underpaid if you want to get started somewhere else or you need experience. So my 2 cents is I would start looking at trade schools. Um, they don't take a lot of money. They do take a lot of money, but they take less money than a college. You get paid to do it. FAFSA will cover a bunch of it. I'm not saying it will cover everything because that might not be true. So don't quote me on that. And you can set your own price once you graduate. Once you get your license, and that's the beauty of my school is they pay for your first attempts. So I have to take 9 tests. I'm an A&P mechanic. I have 9 tests I have to take. It sounds like a lot, but it's 3 sections and 3 different tests. So there's writtens, and then there is orals and practicals. So that's the 9 tests. But for the others, I don't know exactly how many tests there are. But regardless, the school, my school, not all schools, my school pays for your first attempt. So your first attempt is free. You're done with your schooling. Okay, here's your certification. Take your certification to take your test to get your license. Um, so once you have that figured out, once you have that set, it goes by very fast. It's very good. So again, I know I keep saying it, but I keep thinking of things to tell you because I'm super excited about it. Uh, trades. I do not suggest you go back to college. It does not seem like that you even want to. It doesn't seem like that even was comfortable for you. So, um, again, if trades, you can name your price. You graduate, you can name your price. You can make bank. So that's all I have to say. So let me know. I'm clearly I put the link for this in there. If you have any questions, you can or updates or anything, or you want to ask another question that maybe you haven't gotten any information on, go to No Comment 101 on Reddit or on YouTube, and I will gladly talk to you about it. So let me know.